You are doing it right now. As your eyes track these words, your chest is perfectly still. You think you are breathing normally, but your diaphragm has quietly stopped moving. The real answer to why you feel exhausted after a day of doing nothing but sitting is far stranger than poor posture or lack of sleep. You are holding your breath. You do not notice it happening. It happens every time you unlock your phone. It happens when you open a new tab. It happens when you scroll through an endless feed of faces, news, and products. Your ancestors never experienced this specific paralysis. For millions of years, your respiratory system was locked in a perfect, unconscious rhythm with the natural world. You breathed in time with your footsteps across the savanna. You breathed in time with the wind moving through the trees. You breathed in time with the rising and setting of the sun. But then you invented a glowing rectangle that demands your absolute, unbroken attention. And your brain decided that looking at this rectangle was a matter of immediate survival. When your brain thinks it is surviving, it radically changes how your body operates. It shuts down the non-essential systems to conserve energy for the threat. And to your ancient, deeply wired brain, breathing deeply while staring at a screen feels dangerously non-essential. Why would your body voluntarily restrict its own oxygen supply just to look at a photograph of a stranger's vacation? Why would you suffocate yourself just to read a headline about a stock market crash? The answer lies in a hidden evolutionary glitch, a glitch that turns your most advanced technology into a biological trap. This phenomenon actually has a clinical name. A former Microsoft executive named Dr. Linda Stone noticed it first over a decade ago. She was sitting in a busy cafe, watching people stare intently at their laptops and smartphones. She noticed their shoulders were hiked up tight. She noticed their jaws were tightly clenched. Most importantly, she noticed their chests were barely rising at all. She called it email apnea. Later, as smartphones took over the world, it became known as screen apnea. It is a temporary suspension of breathing or a shift to very shallow, irregular breathing while engaging with digital screens. Dr. Stone conducted informal but rigorous tests on hundreds of people in various environments. She found that nearly 80% of them stopped breathing entirely or breathed very shallowly when reading emails or scrolling through social media. You might think this is just a quirky modern habit. You might think it is just a bad posture issue you can easily fix with a quick stretch. But the roots of this behavior go much deeper than a simple bad habit. They go all the way back to the foundational, evolutionary architecture of your nervous system. Your brain is not malfunctioning when it stops your breath. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do over millions of years of brutal natural selection. It is trying to protect you from an unseen danger. To truly understand why this happens, you have to look at how your ancestors reacted to sudden, intense, unpredictable information. Imagine you are walking through a dense, shadowy forest. You hear a sudden, sharp snap of a twig. Your eyes instantly lock onto a flicker of movement in the dark bushes. What happens to your breath in that exact millisecond? It stops completely. This is a universal mammalian response. It is the freeze response. When you stop breathing, you become perfectly silent. You become perfectly still. You maximize your auditory and visual processing to identify the potential threat. Is it a predator hiding in the ferns? Is it prey you can hunt? Once you identify the threat, your brain releases the biological brake. You either run for your life, or you fight, or you relax and resume your normal deep breathing rhythm. But the glowing rectangle in your hand has completely hijacked this ancient survival mechanism. Every time you scroll your thumb upward, you are presenting your brain with a rapid, endless sequence of novel, high-stimulus information. A political crisis, a perfect, unattainable body, a crying baby, a luxury car, a distant war zone. Your brain processes each shifting image as a potential massive environmental shift. It triggers a micro-freeze response for every single swipe. And in that micro-freeze, your breath catches in your throat. This brings us to the deep, complex wiring of your autonomic nervous system. A renowned psychiatrist and researcher named Dr. Stephen Porges developed the polyvagal theory to explain this exact evolutionary wiring. He discovered that your vagus nerve is the massive wandering superhighway connecting your brainstem to all your major internal organs. This nerve controls your heart rate, it controls your digestion, and most importantly for this moment, it controls your breathing rate. The vagus nerve has two main evolutionary branches. The older, more primitive branch is the dorsal vagal complex. This is the ancient reptilian brake pedal. When activated by extreme stress or perceived immobilization, it slows your heart rate and shuts down your breathing to conserve energy and play dead. The newer, more recently evolved branch is the ventral vagal complex. This is the mammalian social engagement system. It keeps you calm, connected to your tribe, and breathing deeply and evenly. When you scroll through your phone, you are not engaging socially in the way your ventral vagal system expects and requires. You're absorbing isolated, disconnected, silent fragments of data. Your brain cannot read the subtle facial micro-expressions of a flat JPEG. It cannot hear the soothing, rhythmic tone of a loved one's voice in a text message. So it defaults to the older, more primitive survival pathways. It hits the dorsal vagal brake. Your heart rate variability drops significantly. Your diaphragm locks up tight. You are essentially putting your physical body into a state of suspended animation while your conscious mind races at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You are experiencing a profound, exhausting biological contradiction. Your mind is highly stimulated and overloaded, but your body is trapped in a primitive freeze state. Have you ever wondered why you feel so physically drained and hollow after sitting on the couch for 3 straight hours? It is because your body has been running a low-grade, invisible survival marathon. It has been holding its breath, waiting for a predator that never actually arrives. The screen never stops feeding you new, alarming information, so the freeze response never fully resolves. You are trapped in a continuous, exhausting loop of micro-paralysis. Foraging for information mimics foraging for food. Your ancestors spent hours scanning the horizon for edible berries or animal tracks. When they found something, it triggered a dopamine reward. The infinite scroll mimics this exact foraging loop. But there is a critical difference. When an ancestor found a berry bush, they stopped, they ate, they rested. Their breathing returned to a deep, relaxed baseline. The digital feed has no bottom. There is no final berry. There is no moment of completion. Your brain keeps the foraging loop open indefinitely. It keeps the freeze response active because the search never ends. You are biologically trapped in a state of perpetual seeking without the physical reward of consumption. Your nervous system is running on a treadmill that never stops moving. To truly grasp how incredibly strange this is, you need to look at the physical, biological machinery of breathing deep inside your brainstem. Deep in the lower part of your brain, there's a tiny, vital cluster of neurons called the pre-bötzinger complex. A pioneering neurobiologist named Dr. Jack Feldman identified this specific cluster as the primary rhythm generator for breathing in all mammals. It acts like an internal biological metronome. It sends steady, rhythmic electrical signals down your spinal cord to your diaphragm, telling it to contract and relax over and over again. In a natural physical environment, this metronome syncs beautifully with your movement, your emotions, and your surroundings. When you walk up a hill, it speeds up. When you fall into deep sleep, it slows down to a gentle whisper. When you speak to a friend, it pauses and flows with your words. But the pre-bötzinger complex is highly sensitive to cognitive load and intense visual focus. When your visual cortex is flooded with the rapid, unpredictable, endlessly scrolling feed of a digital network, it sends a massive, chaotic surge of excitatory signals down to the brainstem. This neural traffic jam overwhelms the delicate, steady rhythm of the pre-bötzinger complex. The biological metronome skips a beat, then it skips another. Your breathing becomes irregular, shallow, and eventually it just pauses entirely. You are literally thinking so hard and looking so intensely that you are forgetting to tell your own diaphragm to move. This is not just a harmless temporary pause. Oxygen is the fundamental, non-negotiable currency of your cellular energy. When you hold your breath, even just shallowly, carbon dioxide begins to build up rapidly in your bloodstream. Your blood becomes slightly more acidic. Your brain detects this dangerous chemical shift and immediately triggers a subtle background stress response. It releases a tiny, steady drip of cortisol and adrenaline into your system, just enough to keep you alert, just enough to keep your eyes glued to the screen. You are chemically forcing yourself to stay awake and engaged by slowly starving your brain of optimal oxygen. It is a vicious, self-sustaining biological feedback loop of anxiety. You scroll because you feel a low-level anxiety. You hold your breath because you scroll. The lack of oxygen makes you physically more anxious. So you scroll even more to distract yourself from the mounting physical discomfort in your chest. Look at your hands right now. Look at the smooth glass device you are holding. It is an absolute miracle of human engineering. It contains the sum of all recorded human knowledge. It connects you instantly to billions of other minds across the entire planet. Yet it possesses the strange dark power to override 300 million years of careful evolutionary biology in a fraction of a single second. It turns you into a rigid statue. It turns you into a silent, breathless observer of a digital world that does not actually physically exist. Your ancestors survived by breathing deeply, moving constantly, and reading the subtle, vital shifts in the wind and the soil. They survived by being fully, physically embodied in their immediate environment. You are surviving by disconnecting entirely from your physical body to inhabit a fleeting stream of glowing pixels. But the physical body always keeps the score. The persistent tightness in your chest is not just bad posture from sitting too long. The heavy, persistent fog in your brain is not just a simple lack of good sleep. It is the accumulated, heavy weight of 1,000 unfinished freeze responses. It is the quiet, desperate echo of a nervous system waiting for conscious permission to finally exhale. You can break the loop at any time. You can consciously force your tight diaphragm to drop. You can pull the cool air deep into your expanding belly. You can send a powerful physical signal to your ancient brain that the predator is finally gone. You can remind your tired body that it is completely safe to exist in the present, physical moment. The next time you feel that subtle, familiar tightness in your lower ribs, do not just look away from the screen. Look inward. Feel the air entering your nose. Feel the deep, slow expansion of your lungs. Feel the ancient, steady rhythm returning to your blood. You are doing it right now. As your eyes track these final words, your chest is finally moving. You think you are just reading a script, but your diaphragm has quietly remembered how to live. Your brain is always foraging for new information. You get to decide what it consumes next. If you want to keep uncovering the hidden evolutionary architecture of your own mind, leave a signal that this data was valuable. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and strike the bell icon to ensure your feed is populated with deep knowledge instead of endless noise. Take one final conscious breath. The next revelation is already waiting.